What's up, everybody? This is Jay Floyd. Welcome back to On Everything, my new branded podcast. I mean, it's really the same podcast because it's just me giving the message, but I think I am evolving and my message should evolve. You know, that's no shot at anybody else's podcast, but it's just how I've been approaching the journey. So today, storytelling time. My number one strength in life is storyteller, so I'm going to lean into that whenever I can. I want to tell, you're going to hear probably a lot in the coming 10, 20, 30 episodes. I'm going to touch a little bit on my life. I actually wrote my life story and self-published it. It's available on Amazon, shameless plug. It's called The Poet Who Watched the Whole Parade. You can actually go out and get it. I think it's like $9.99 actually. It's a nice paperback. It's my first piece of writing. So, you know, I am writing more and even writing fiction these days. So if you go out and you read it, send me a message. Let me know how you liked my original writing. And then you can keep up with me and my evolution as I continue to publish more. So my life story, and one of the earliest memories I have, let's start when I was about 5. Maybe I was 4. Could have been 4. My mom she was born and raised in this really rough neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio, Scoville area, right? Anybody familiar with Cleveland will know this neighborhood. That's where my mom was raised. She was born in Mississippi. She was shipped up here when she was 3, and so she was raised around there. She had a best friend. I'm blanking on her name. I probably shouldn't throw names in anyway, but she had a best friend, and anybody who knows anything about, I would say black, but it's really just marginalized or impoverished communities, the families start to merge together. So a lot of times for a small child, a person, you know, the mother's best friend is auntie, you know, and this was the case for us. My mom's best friend, we called her auntie. My mom and dad were in the middle of a bitter divorce, so we were kind of floating around, living different places. We had made an attempt to move to the suburbs that failed miserably. We were bouncing around, living with cousins and etc. And my mom would reach out to her best friend and keep in contact with her. Her best friend still stayed in the projects over near where they first grew up. Actually, I think it was right where they first grew up and met each other. Her best friend still lived there. She was married. She had a husband, and they didn't have kids. And my mom would call her best friend sometimes and make sure that me and my brother knew that this lady was to be considered our auntie, and we should get excited about it, right? And you know, whenever we can, we're going to go back and visit. And we did. On occasion, we would go back down to the projects, and, you know, it's what you would expect from the project building. You know, it's run down. The hallways smell like piss, and man, it's just the smoke smell. I mean, obviously it was the 80s, so the smoke smell was kind of everywhere, but it's definitely a distinct smell. This mixture of things that I can still remember right now. I can't really put words to it, but we go back down there, and you know, every time we go, they say, "Hey, we're so excited to see y'all. Can't wait to see you next time. We're going to get you some gifts," right? We get you gifts. They were excited. They didn't have kids, so they were excited about the prospect of buying gifts for her kids. So one day we went down. Like I said, I was about 4. It's me, my mother, my brother. They're like, "We have a gift for little Jason." If y'all don't know, it's my name. I do go by Jay Floyd. That's a story I'll touch on another time. As me and my brother have both gone by the name Jay. But they said, "Hey, we have a gift for little Jason. Come next time you come. Make sure you come quick. This is a really special gift. We can't wait to give it to him. We couldn't get there immediately, right? But my mom told us, hey, we got to get down to my friend's house, to your auntie's house, because she has a gift for you, Jason, and it's special. You're going to love it. Can't wait. Get excited. You're going to love it. I don't know how long this went on. Time is relative. And after all these years, it feels like this went on for about a couple of months. It could have been a few weeks. I don't know. But it went on. Eventually, we got down there. Okay, here's the day. We're going to get down there. We get down there, and I remember we were outside. So I don't know. We just didn't go in their apartment. They were outside, and we pulled up in our car outside. And their car was outside. And they go into the car, and they're like, okay, we got it for you. And they reach in, and they pull out this riding toy. I don't know if anybody remembers, if you were around in the 70s and 80s, you remember a toy called the Inchworm. It was essentially this plastic riding toy that was like shaped like a worm that was in like an S curve. And if you imagine like a sine wave type S curve, and the parts of the curve that were touching the ground had wheels on them. And the other parts that curved up was essentially like the seat and the handlebars. So in order to use this toy, you were supposed to sit on one of the humps and hold the handlebars on the first hump and bounce up and down. And that bouncing, that movement should make the riding toy go forward by just like an inch or two, right? So it would go down, the wheels would kind of expand out, the front wheels would expand forward, the back wheels would expand backwards, and then you bounce up. And essentially it was designed so that you would go forward a little bit at a time. And so and this was a big, like the 80s, and this is the beginning of the 80s, but the Reagan 80s were big, right? Like anybody who doesn't know, and I know I've waxed poetic about this in the past, and maybe I will. I've even done songs on this. I did a song called Midwest on my album What's Good, which is available on Spotify and Tidal. You should go listen. All outlets. Talking about Ronald Reagan's effect on the marketing, specifically on the marketing of toys and things that kids would be interested in, specifically to the middle part of the country, and I grew up in the Midwest in Cleveland, and it was a great equalizer, right? There were rich kids, poor kids, white kids, black kids, brown kids, everybody, all kids were subject to the impact of this, right? Part of Reaganomics was that Ronald Reagan removed a lot of FCC regulations. So, or FTC regulations, Federal Trade Commission, whatever it is. I cannot remember the acronym, but essentially he removed the restrictions to where, especially on TV and radio, all bets were off on what retailers, manufacturers, big companies could do to advertise things to kids. You could lie, you could misrepresent the toy, you could never even show the toy, and you could trick people into buying these things. So it was like huge marketing pushes on things like the Inchworm. The Inchworm had embedded in my mind. It worked. The marketing ploy had worked on me. So when my quote unquote auntie reached into her trunk and pulled this thing out, I think it may have even been raining a little bit, and it was dark. It was a very weird interaction. It's almost like some kind of a drug deal interaction or something, but this is where we were coming to get this toy presented to us. So they pulled this thing out, they put it on the ground, and I am a painfully shy kid at the time, right? Like that was how my family described it. In modern day terms, we now know that I had panic disorder. It was something I've been dealing with my entire life. And I was frozen. I was completely frozen. This lady who I was told to call my auntie, I didn't really know her that well. I didn't really know her husband that well. These are people my mother grew up with. We're in a neighborhood that I don't know very well. It's in the dark. It's raining. And they pull out this dream toy and they're expecting me to like do backflips and just run and jump on this thing and say, oh my God, thank you. You're the greatest surrogate parents, auntie, uncles in the world. I didn't do that. I froze. Anybody who deals with an anxiety disorder or like panic disorder, they know sometimes you are so stimulated and you're just in your brain trying to work out what's going on. And in that moment, I just literally stood there. And one of the hallmarks of families, particularly in that generation, that Gen X generation, they try to force a certain reaction on you. So, my mom is feeling uncomfortable, like, oh, my son's not showing gratitude. I don't even know what her friend and her husband are feeling, but they felt a little bit aggressive too. And I froze. And in that moment, my big brother, who is 3.5 years older than me, so he's like 7, and he is not the size of the average 7-year-old. He is big. He is husky. He jumps on that inchworm. And he said, yeah, this is the inchworm from the commercial. Boom. And he jumps on it and he starts bouncing up and down. He's like, this is how it works. And he bounces and he's going forward like an inch at a time. And it's like, wow, this thing works. And crack. He broke it. He broke it. Split it right in the middle of the top hump that you sit on. Everybody is silent. I'm standing there, and this is one of those key moments that I've learned as a parent. Sometimes the reaction that the child will have is super dependent on the reaction that the parent has in the moment, or the adults or the authority figures. And right in that moment, I honestly didn't know what to feel. I mean, I felt kind of like mad at my brother a little bit, but it was something I was used to. He would do that. A lot of times we got the same toy, right? We would get 2 copies. We get 2 of the same toy, and he would play so rough with his that he'd break it, and then he'd try to take mine. It's something that we had been catching him doing for years. So I wasn't super shocked. I was a little disappointed. But the anger that came out of my mom and her friend's husband, and it was interesting because they were, it felt, I guess the words what they were saying were that they were angry at him. But that's not how they showed it. Everybody was looking at me. They were saying words about him. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. That was mean. But what they were looking at me. Because then the conversation ultimately became, well, damn, he didn't even get to ride it. Look at him. Look at that sad little boy. He didn't even get to touch that thing that we got him. You never even got, it almost became humiliating. You never even got to touch it because your brother hopped on it and broke it. He was the only one that even got to enjoy it for the time it was working. And I felt manipulated. I felt robbed. I felt controlled over I never really had a chance to really make a decision on how I felt about it. But the overriding thing that I honestly felt after it was all said and done was I didn't ask for any of that. I never asked for the inchworm. You told me you were going to buy it. You told me you had bought it. You told us to come get it. We actually didn't even come immediately. We came whenever we could. It's tough for us to get transportation and schedules worked out. We got there. And then that happened to me. What I probably needed most in that moment wasn't this strange, misdirected anger, pity blend, but I probably just, you know what? I don't know what I needed in that moment. I don't know. Has anybody out there been in that situation like that before? Where you never even got a chance to process how you feel. The response from others chimed in and forced a whole nother feeling on you, humiliation, this awkward embarrassment. Yeah, I felt all of that. It took me a long time. It used to come up often, right? And the topic would come up as kind of like it was intended to come up as a chastisement to my brother. Man, you did that and that was wrong. That was mean. You should treat your brother more nicely. But it always would end in really just more humiliation for me, right? So as time went on, I've learned in life we go through things and they don't always go, there's plenty of ways that circumstance could have went better. There's plenty of ways the adults and the authority figures could have showed up better. There's plenty of ways my brother could have behaved better, but it didn't happen. It happened the way it did, right? So I firmly feel like, okay, well, the way that it did happen, yeah, we can learn from it, all of that. But at the end of the day, it did something to all of us. I'm pretty sure it impacted my brother. And I'll touch on a lot of the things that I feel and have learned and about the elder sibling experience, the oldest sibling experience. But from my experience, what I had to learn is my unique journey. I needed to see that. I needed to see a more aggressive person come in and take what was mine and break it so I never could have it. It kind of makes me who I am. I don't think about it every day, but I'm sure it's buried deep down in there. It's a driver for me. Anytime you have those kind of drivers, you got to make sure they're healthy drivers, right? I've talked to my therapist about these things. But one of the things that I do now as a leader, and I want people to understand, being a leader doesn't mean you're perfect. Nobody's ever perfect. You got things you're working on, right? As a leader, I recognized that was one of the situations that made me. And I paint a picture for myself now. I wasn't meant to go aggressively just to move an inch. That's not me. That's not me. So even in that circumstance when I was 4 and my brother was 7 and those parents and those authority figures were there, we were all being who we are. And I'm not the dude that aggressively rushes in just to go an inch. Because you know what? I never even asked for another inchworm. And I saw inchworms later. And the marketing ploy had wore off. I'm not excited about bouncing on this thing just to go an inch. Show me something that is more efficient. Show me something that goes a little further, a little faster. I'm not excited about an inchworm. I don't know. And you know what? I really don't even know what you should take from this. But I do think there's some jewels in there to take from it. So you tell me, hit me up on social media. Go out to Open Book Media. You tell me, did that story mean? Do you have stories like that? I firmly believe, and this is what I built Open Book Media around, and all of my coaching, all of my leadership, it's written in all of my books, even my fiction books. The things we experience, they don't define us, but they're the bricks that we're built on, right? We're not limited to only those past experiences, but those past experiences do not disqualify us. Sometimes they're painful, sometimes they're hurtful, sometimes they're even so unusual that we think other people can't relate. but I guarantee you they still provide a firm foundation, a unique strength. There's only you. There's only one you. When they make a watch or a car and there's only one of one, what does that mean? It ends up driving the value up. So what should that mean about you? A machine that is actually living and with parts that are far more complex than a watch or a vehicle. Yeah, that's my thought for today, y'all. On that inchworm, inches. I'd rather go farther than that. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, y'all. Check me out on my next episode, and I hope you really enjoy the Humpty Dumpty episode, because it gave me a chance to really dig into the mantra of own everything, right? I had been admittedly kind of stuck in a box, right, of What's Good. What's Good was a great album. It's a great clothing line. It's a great mantra. But when I do my podcast, my mind has more to offer than just what's good leadership and coaching. There's a lot of things that are just ponderings, just interesting, things that we can still dig some diamonds out of to help us. Yeah, but a little bit less structured. So thanks for joining me, y'all. I love y'all. Thank you for listening. Holla at me later, man. Please, so like and subscribe this on any platform you're listening to. And stay tuned for far more episodes. Peace. Ready to revolutionize your content creation? Discover Deep Brain AI, the cutting-edge solution in AI video synthesis. Create lifelike AI videos with ease, ideal for presentations, educational content, or just boosting your digital marketing. Your AI avatar waits to deliver messages with natural expressions and natural voices. It'll be just like hearing and seeing you and me. Experience the future of communication with Deep Brain AI. Discover more right now at what'sgood.work and click on our link that says visit our sponsor.